taking over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall, coast to coast.
And we are back. Hour number 3 for El Coast to Coast here on a Wednesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us here. Of course, we'll finish up Golf Wednesdays with Keith Stewart from Read the Line. He is down at Pinehurst for the U.S. Open, teeing off tomorrow morning. We will get our last licks in terms of previews, picks, etc. with Keith coming up later this hour. We've got some other things to do as well. I got a lot of football for Joe. In hour number 3, we've even got a little look at the Cup Final, Game 3, which, of course, tomorrow night in Edmonton. Some travel problems for the Florida Panthers today. I did just see they are off the ground in South Florida, and they are on their way to beautiful Edmonton, Alberta, for Game number 3 tomorrow night in the Stanley Cup Final. Joe, I do have 3 other games for you tonight in baseball, and I have the Taters before I get to all of that football that you were looking forward to. The Angels and the Diamondbacks, once again tonight, out in the desert. You'll have Jose Soriano and the great Slade Ciccone and his 5.6 ERA with 10 homers allowed in 41 innings. You will have him going for the Diamondbacks tonight. That number, as of now, Joe, is the D-backs minus $1.50 plus $1.25 for the Angels and an 8.5.
Yeah. I'm staying under tonight unless this is a bailout tonight. I'm not playing it. I lean to the Diamondbacks at home, but I again, this is another game. 3-1 last night. You thought this game would be what? At least 10, 11 runs. Now they tack an 8.5 here. I think the Diamondbacks are the better team. Playing at home, I think they bounce back. Give me the Diamondbacks, but again, I lean to the under here. I don't feel confident. Unless we lose every bet at 7 and 8 o'clock tonight, then things can change. I might be on the over.
It's going to be one of those days, Joe. 2-run homer for Yordan Alvarez makes it a 5-3 game for the Giants and the Astros. I've played Alvarez the last 3 days to homer.
And I was on the over and didn't play it.
Stayed away because Logan Webb has been so good this year. 2 homers in like 80-plus innings. And sure enough, it was a fat price, too. He was like plus 550, which you'd never get Yordan Alvarez at. And sure enough, he goes yard. So, Joe, that's twice in the span of like 30 minutes between Solano and Alvarez that the blood's starting to boil a little bit here, Joe. So we're going to need some tater time tonight.
That bothers me. Two good pitchers on the mound, right? What did I say? Everybody's going to bang the under. Today's going to be the over day, right? And sure enough, here we go.
I cannot believe this guy hit a homer today after doing nothing for me the last 2 days. Jonathan Cannon and Bryce Miller tonight in Seattle. I got to move on, Joe. I can't even think about it anymore. Minus 250 for the Mariners tonight, plus 200 for the White Sox. Another 7.5 for these two, Joe. Although last night they got, I think last night was a flat 7, wasn't it? Didn't they have a flat 7 last night and it pushed? They went way over it on Monday night. You going after it again?
I'm going to go after this one because the first game was 8-4. Then we push again with the adjusted number. Now they tick it up with the 7.5. Let's go back to the trend from Monday night. We'll go over the 7.5. And again, it all depends on how the early games are going for me. I might alt this into the 10s, 10.5, 11.5, depending upon how the night goes.
And finally, Joe, last late night game is going to be in Los Angeles, where the Dodgers, as we've mentioned earlier, smashed the Rangers last night. Walker Buehler and John Gray tonight, minus 175 for the Dodgers, plus $1.45 for Texas, and a flat 8 after 17 runs last night.
I guess let's go. Let's go up and away here. I think the Dodgers obviously match up well, but I would take a shot on Freeman again. Let's see if we could get back-to-back. The only person that didn't homer was Betts, you said, but I think when Freeman's in the zone, he continues. He had that hitting streak a few years ago. He continues. Now that he's in the zone, maybe hitting homers, maybe we go back-to-back.
Yeah, I'm in a maybe, Joe.
You're a beaten-down fighter. That's it.
I am. Alvarez. Solano I could take, because it is what it is. I never play soft. For the guy who I had at the end of some big parlays the last couple nights, the homer today, that's just going to leave me in bits right now, Joe. All right, let's get the taters tonight. So clearly we have these taters tonight, and if none of them hit tonight, here's what I suggest. Go play them tomorrow. Because that seems to be how it works sometimes around here. I told you guys on the Mets beat up on Braxton Garrett. Pete Alonso, 2 homers off him in his career. Lindor also has 3 off him in his career, Joe. So a couple of Mets with some big numbers. And you're giving me the Polar Bear at plus 425 tonight out at Citi Field. Let's go. I'm going back to Ohtani, Joe. That's the Dodger that I'm going to go with tonight, especially against the righty Gray plus 270. Jose Ramirez for Cleveland at plus 320. Matt Olson at 4-1. In that Baltimore-Atlanta game. Let's get runs. Bryce Harper, 475 with Pavetta, who is a tater machine. Let's go. And Paul DeJong, Joe, has actually been hot lately. He's hit a bunch of homers for the White Sox in the past week. That's a kind of a sizzle play for me. I'm going with a hot bat against Miller up in Seattle tonight, and it's nice 6-1 price.
No, I like the picks. Again, I think the one that stands out for me is Harper at plus 475. I mean, Philly's going up in a very short park, and granted, Harper has to hit it the other way, but still, I mean, he could go the other way and get it over the Green Monster as well, can he? I mean, come on.
Remember this, Joe. Schwarber didn't have to go the other way twice last night. He went the long way out at Fenway, and he took care of business. Those were 2 mammoth shots from Kyle Schwarber last night against the Red Sox. So Bryce can go that way tonight, too, if he wants, Joe. He can go down to right field there at Fenway. It's open. The bullpen's there.
Sit dead red, kid. Sit dead red. The old number 1. Sit dead red, Bryce.
I'm fuming, Joe. How about, I got a lot of football for you here.
Yeah,
and
I know.
Here
we go with the football. All right.
Wait a second. Be fair, Joe. Yesterday, I promised you a lot of football, and did I deliver for you? Yes, I did.
You did, but it is football season. We're coming up on it.
Wow, it's really not yet. It's really not yet.
Well,
it's,
all right, so let me ask you, I just want to make sure. When is considered football season? When Hard Knocks comes out? Is that when?
No.
Is that when?
No, when they get to training camp, that's football season. When they start to show up at training camp. So, like, first week of August to the Super Bowl, Joe. Although, really now, you know, May and June are really the only 2, like, quiet months anymore. And I wouldn't even call it quiet all the time, right? Because there are plenty of things going on. Let me give you one now, and I'll give you the rest later after I talk to Keith. And I wanted to start with Joey Silk because this is your guy. Here he is yesterday at Bengals mandatory minicamp. He's had a lot of injuries the last couple of years. And, yes, Joe, he has started to think about all those injuries piling up for him. Here's Burrow.
Your football mortality kind of comes into the back of your mind. So that's definitely something that I've thought about and something that I've had to fight through. That's every injury that happens. You know, they stack, and you know, you continue to think about how you can get better from those and how you can come back an improved player when maybe you're not getting the reps that you had because of your injury. So it's always a challenge. It always is. But, you know, I'm built for it. Our team is built for it. And the people that I have surrounded myself with have been through it with me as well. So I'm excited about the season. I'm excited about what we're going to do. And I'm excited about all the guys we have in the locker room.
We're giving you 50.
Joe, that's your guy, Joe. That's your guy, Joey Silk. Tell me about it.
I told you he had a calf strain. Let's call it. It's not like they chopped his leg off, God forbid. But I'm just saying, like, it was a calf injury. You know, let's call it what it is. You recovered. You're fine. You know, throw a little liniment on it. You'll be fine. It's okay. $55 million reasons to get your ass back on the football field and not think about your football mortality. I mean, these guys are ridiculous now. I mean, seriously, it used to be a privilege to play in the NFL. Now it's all football mortality. I got to worry about the brand. I can't. If he starts going down this road, I'm going to sell him.
Ferrall Coast to Coast here on a Wednesday. Carver High and Joe Frascati will come back. Keith Stewart, read the line. Boots on the ground. Pinehurst, U.S. Open. Let's go.
Look at the stats. 5 out of the top 6 televised rated games on the WNBA this year all involve Caitlin Clark. The only one that doesn't was a second half of a doubleheader in which Caitlin Clark played the first game.
Only on SportsGrid.
You're going a little deep bomb hunting here. We don't care that we have the one heavy favorite with Rory, a couple other guys like Fleetwood and Tagala, etc. You're going to go a little deeper down the board.
This course, I think, is going to play a little bit more to the wedges. They have, what they did is they've renovated it to basically block off some of the bombing alleys for these guys. They've narrowed the fairways.
Ferrall Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Garrett Cole's getting ready to come back, too. I guess this... Look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Garrett Cole, look, don't come back. I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with an injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
And we are back for Coast to Coast here on a Wednesday. Carver High in for Scotty on SportsGrid at SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us on a golf Wednesday. Bigger than usual because we have a major this week. The U.S. Open, Pinehurst, number 2. And as always, we have boots on the ground every Wednesday. Not every Wednesday, boots on the ground. But if it's a huge event, we always have boots on the ground with Keith Stewart from Read the Line. And he is down there in North Carolina. Keith, great to see you as always, my man. Let's get rocking here for the U.S. Open. And I always like to start with, tell me about the weather first, because that's always my biggest thing. It looks pretty good, but you've been walking around that place. Seems a little crispy, Keith.
Well, I'll tell you right now, Carver, and good afternoon, of course, on a Golf Wednesday. I am so charged up to come to talk to you today. I am ready to bring the heat, just like Pinehurst itself. It is a full-on bake sale down here. This place has been crispy since I showed up, and it has totally changed what I think we need to do in order to pick the winners here. And my outright cards, my placements and everything totally reflect it. Everything is like as firm and fast as it could possibly be. There are already water in the golf course, which tells you that it's on the edge. And it's supposed to reach almost 100 on Friday. The weather, no rain, so don't get agitated, but we're going to have slow rounds, and we're going to have a total pressure cooker down here at Pinehurst.
Let's get into the course a little bit here, Keith, and then I want to go into Scheffler because he obviously plays a big part into all of this. I've watched like 600 videos this week of everyone going over to the greens. They're dropping the ball, watching it roll like 100 feet off of it. Is this what we're going to be dealing with? Because we heard all the complaints. A lot of people complaining at Valhalla, minus 21, minus 20, low scores. We saw the ladies in Lancaster a couple weeks ago with ridiculous conditions. Is everybody get what they want this week, Keith, which is, the winner to be minus 1?
Oh, well, everybody's going to get it, so we're going to find out who the real hypocrites are, Carver, because I'll tell you right now, this golf course is near impossible. And that's not to say that over a couple of days that somebody won't be a couple under par and win this thing, but I don't see anyone running away from it. And here's the thing. Before we showed up, you and I, we talk about these things. We want total driving. Keep it out of the vegetation, right? We wanted guys who were great long iron players, and we wanted a little bit around the green, but we felt like, you know what, Scotty Scheffler, Colin Morikawa, these guys are really good. Scrap all of that. Once I got here Monday and I saw the condition of the golf course and how hard it is and how firm it is and what's really going on down here and how burnt out it is, there's going to be guys that hit the ball great off the tee and still end up in the weeds. And there's going to be guys that hit the ball great on approach. I walked with Scotty this morning. He did an approach on number 2. It couldn't have been any better from over 200 yards. He landed the ball 10 feet from the hole, and it rolled off the green. So if all these factors come into play, it basically becomes a chipping contest amongst the whole green, amongst the whole field. I'm sorry. So it's a putting and a chipping contest. And for me, I'm going to take the guys that are the best at that right now in the world, because you can be a great driver, but at some point you're going into wiregrass. And from there, you're going to punch it down by the green, chip on, try to save par. So if you're a great driver and you're not a great chipper, I don't need you. And the same thing goes for approach. I mean, you can throw those other skills out the window. Just get it down there near the hole and then score.
And this is where I go to Scotty with this. When you have conditions like this, and Scotty has been an absolute machine. He wins again last week at the Memorial.
Yep.
Five enormous wins this year. All the big events. Scotty has, other than Valhalla where they threw him in jail for an hour, he has been right there with everything this year. Does a track like this, with how difficult it's going to be, despite him being the best in the world, does it neutralize things a little bit to let those next couple tiers of players equalize with Scotty with how great he's been?
Oh, there's no doubt. And the USGA has this thing set up for that, essentially. I mean, let's just go back through history. If you go back to 2005, one of the ones that were here at Pinehurst, one of the U.S. Opens that Michael Campbell won, 15 of the last 19 winners of this national championship have been first-time major winners. So that tells you that the best player doesn't always win, that there's going to be a little bit of luck of the draw. You hit the ball off the green grass this week and you go into those sandy waste areas, it's a flip of the coin, whether you'll hit the ball forward or whether you'll just punch out. And enough of that happens, Scotty's going to get some bad breaks. I mean, heck, he was hitting the ball great last week and he made a triple bogey on Sunday, right? So there is a huge opportunity here in a U.S. Open for there to be some luck and for some names to make a move. And that's why, I mean, you had to pick. Are you going to go all the way Scotty, or are you going to go with the field and then make a real betting card? You know what? I put Scotty aside. I'll raise my hand and say, hey, I guess we should have taken him last week because that was a course where we could predict what would happen. You can't predict what's going to happen at Pinehurst. And with that being the case, we got to look at some other people.
All right, well, let's look at some other people, Keith. We've got 2 minutes left here, so I want to focus on one guy on your outright card, and then you give me the rest after the break. And that guy for me has to be Colin Morikawa because he has been so good since the Masters. He's got, of course, a couple of top fives in both the majors this year. He has been right there at Memorial last week. It feels like Colin Morikawa is so close to finally knocking Scotty aside and taking one from him.
It's easy to go and say, starting at the Masters, he goes 3rd, 9th, 16th, 4th, 2nd. But what's most important for me is what he's been doing in order to come up with those finishes and to play so well. He's gaining on average 9 strokes against the field total over his last 5 starts. So he's played great, yes. But when you break it down, he's gaining over 2.5 strokes around the green and another 2 strokes with the putter. These aren't things that he did when he was winning major championships. He has really worked on that part of his game, and it's going to be a huge asset this week. You put that with his accuracy off the tee and his ability to hit irons like he can at a world-class level, he is in my mind, he is the number 1 contender to Scotty. And at the Masters, he measured himself against Scotty, and he lost. And then, of course, last week he measured himself again, but guess what? He was a little closer, Carver. You saw it. We had him on our card, and he had a chance. With 3 holes to go, 4 holes to go, Colin was there. He's 1 step closer, which you know what that means. This week, he can take him down.
And, hey, like at Valhalla, he just couldn't putt on Sunday. I mean, he was there at Valhalla as well, and he just couldn't. Yep. He just couldn't make any of those birdie putts from 10 to 15 feet. They just weren't falling for him. Par all day long, and he couldn't get done. We'll come back. We'll get the rest of Keith's outright card. We'll get the placements. We'll get the head-to-heads. And I think, a little surprise, something to do with Scotty this week. We got to get Scotty involved somehow. Keith Stewart reads the line. We're back after this on the break.
look at the stats. 5 out of the top 6 televised rated games on the WNBA this year all involve Caitlin Clark. The only one that doesn't was a second half of a doubleheader in which Caitlin Clark played the first game.
Only on SportsGrid.
You're going a little deep bomb hunting here. We don't care that we have the one heavy favorite with Rory, a couple other guys like Fleetwood and Tagala, etc. You're going to go a little deeper down the board.
This course, I think, is going to play a little bit more to the wedges. They have, what they did is they've renovated it to basically block off some of the bombing alleys for these guys. They've narrowed the fairways.
Ferrall Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Garrett Cole's getting ready to come back too. I guess this. Look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Garrett Cole, "Look, don't come back." I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with an injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
And we are back, well, coast to coast here on a Wednesday, a golf Wednesday on C2C. And Keith Stewart from Read the Line is with us every Wednesday getting ready for this week's PGA Tour event. It's a big one this week. It's a major. It's the U.S. Open at Pinehurst, and Keith is there. All right, Keith, we know we like Morikawa. I am with you on that, reading the same mail as we love. Give me the rest of your outright card.
All right, let's work our way through this. The next one, I've got the kid. Yes, I've got Ludwig Aubert. And I tell you what, he's got a partially torn meniscus. Who cares, right? The guy finished 5th at Memorial. He's walking up and down hills, and he's absolutely striping it. You know, I was out in Dublin, Ohio last week. I'm watching these guys, and I love where he's at. He was the only guy within 4 shots of Scotty at Augusta National, and that's certainly a comp to this, the way that you have to play the ground game. And here's one more for you, Carver. I know you love this stuff, and this is why I'm here. He played in the 2019 U.S. Amateur here at Pinehurst number 2. He made it through stroke play, made it into match play, top 64, and he lost in the round of 32 matches. So he got 4 rounds in there, 4 good, heavy, pressure-filled rounds on this golf course. I love him and where his ball striking's at. I'm going to go Cam Smith, and here's the reason why. Everyone's going to be, Keith, the driver, it's all over the place. Yeah, in the back, the hair flows, right? He lets it fly with the driver. But when you get to the front, it's all business, right? That's right, man. Business in the front, party in the back. And when he gets close to that green, he absolutely scores better than anyone in the world. And when I'm telling you in the last segment that this thing is turning into an around-the-green acumen contest, he is the best in the world. He's got the comp wins that you want. He's got players, and he's got St. Andrews. He is absolutely the best at the ground game in the world. And to get him at 50-1, I just love that he was horrible in Houston at Live. I've watched him this week. Nobody's better around the green. And then one more, another guy who is excellent around the green. And, you know, he's just really, really good at links golf and the ground game, and that's Terrell Hatton. If we just had normal conditions here, great long iron player, but of course, he is also a great chipper and putter. That is the formula we need this week. And I love the fact that, you know, if he has to go head-to-head with Scotty, he's got a little edge. I mean, he'll probably yell at himself more than he'll yell at Scotty, but at the same time, you know what? He'll be distracted by the fact that he's just mad all the time, and I think that he's somebody that's further down the board that can pull it off.
Always entertaining, that's for sure, when Terrell Hatton is in the mix on the weekend. All right, let's get the placements here, the 5s, the 10s, the 20s, and the 40s, and you've got a couple that I love here, including a guy who has been rock solid at majors in Tom Kim.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. But let's start at the top. We've got to make some Scotty money. If we're not betting him to win, I'm taking him at top 5. And the fact that we could get minus 120, I'm happy about it. You got to make some cash there. You know he's going to be there come Sunday afternoon, and we're going to have to beat him. Top 10, I'm going with the kid for all the evidence that I gave you earlier, plus 230. I love, Ludwig Aberg there. Top 20, Tommy Fleetwood. This is a good spot for him. He was a runner-up at Shinnecock in 2018 in the U.S. Open, and last year he was in that top 5 at LACC, 2 very good comps, and a guy that's kind of flying under the radar. I love the fact that if Tommy could win this thing, he certainly could. And then I will go with also Tom Kim for a top 20. Tom Kim, this is the perfect style major for him. We don't have long rough. It's not super, super long. Yes, I know the yardage is long, but there's a ton of rollout here. And he is really, really good around the greens and really good at scoring, good iron player. So I like Tom Kim there. Top 40, Alex Noren. What more can you say? 9 of his last 10 starts were top 25 finishes, and we're just looking for a top 40. One of the best short games in the world. And then, of course, Harry Higgs. We're running with the heater for the big rig here. He's 2 straight Korn Ferry Tour wins. Then he goes out and he qualifies for the U.S. Open. This could be our 2024 Jason Gore, the guy that kind of storms the field, that Eric Compton guy, the name that we just don't know. And then all of a sudden he pops up there. Don't forget for a second that he finished top 5 when Phil won at Kiowa. And it's the same sort of sandy surface with push-up greens where there's a lot of awkward situational short game shots. The big rig, Harry Higgs, he was solid there, and he's playing some great golf right now.
Let's go, baby. I'll ride the big rig with you, that's for sure. All right, quickly, Keith. 2 head-to-heads, and then give me the Scheffler special.
All right, I'm going Tom Kim over Jordan Spieth. Spieth, again, miscut. Back last week at Memorial, this poor guy, and, the only guy that's missing more cuts than him is Wyndham Clark, so I'm going to take Keegan Bradley over Wyndham Clark. Keegan Bradley, T4, right, when we were here in 2014 and playing great. Wyndham Clark, he hasn't made a cut. Right? With all these signature events, he hasn't made a cut since March. Now, here's the Scotty play. I'm looking at all the boards, and I found one for you, Carver, okay? Get this, all right? Round 3 leader, plus 375, bet 365. You bet him.
Okay.
It's better odds than him as an outright, plus 375. Right now on the big board, he's plus 333. You take that, he wins on Saturday, Morikawa on Sunday, we're done.
Let's go. Keith, I love it. Enjoy it down there at Pinehurst. I'll be following you as always. Keith Stewart, read the line. Coast to coast. We're back after this.
Look at the stats. 5 out of the top 6 televised rated games on the WNBA this year all involve Caitlin Clark. The only one that doesn't was a second half of a doubleheader in which Caitlin Clark played the first game.
Only on SportsGrid.
You're going a little deep bomb hunting here. We don't care that we have the one heavy favorite with Rory, a couple other guys like Fleetwood and Tagala, etc. You're going to go a little deeper down the board.
This course, I think, is going to play a little bit more to the wedges. They have, what they did is they've renovated it to basically block off some of the bombing alleys for these guys. They've narrowed the fairways.
Ferrall Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Garrett Cole's getting ready to come back too. I guess look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Garrett Cole, look, don't come back. I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with an injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
And we are back from Coast to Coast here on a Wednesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us here. Tremendous job by Keith Stewart down at Pinehurst as we get ready. Tomorrow morning, U.S. Open. And as he said, it is crispy down there. Very hot. Balls just flying across the greens. Should be a very interesting couple of days to get things cooking. Joe, I want to go back quickly before I move to the next football note. I did want to ask you, because we did get kind of cut off. I threw it at Joey Silk earlier in the hour. I didn't really get to let you finish that. Give me your thoughts one more time on Joey, talking about all his injuries, football mortality. You know, they got other problems there too, Joe. T. Higgins hasn't been seen yet in any of their offseason stuff or signed his franchise tag. Are you worried at all about Joey Silk and the Bengals going into this year?
No, I'm not worried. But again, you know, when you start thinking about injuries, right, that's when injuries occur. I hate to say that, but, you know, it's a reactionary sport, football. You know, when you start to think about it and think about injuries or thinking about how you're going to fall or slide, that's all of a sudden a problem, especially for a quarterback. You know, Joe Burrow is the best when he just, you know, ice cold, you know, in his veins, and he steps up and he just reacts. That's the quarterback that I want to see. And again, he's so young. He's out of college, you know, basically 5 years. He's a baby. I mean, and you're thinking about football mortality. I mean, come on. Again, he had the ACL. I get it, but they patched him up. They fixed him up. He got $55 million. The wrist injury. I mean, nothing that you can't play through. You know, this is it. It's your job. You want to seal the deal and you want to solidify yourself as a top-tier quarterback, win a Super Bowl, win an AFC championship. They're going to need to do it with T. Higgins or at least Jamar Chase. Chase needs to be happy as well.
He does need to be happy as well, Joe. That's for sure.
I'm a little nervous. A little.
You should be.
Slightly.
You should be. We'll stay in the AFC North, and we'll go to Pittsburgh, where, of course, they have not one but two new quarterbacks on the roster coming into this year. And Russell Wilson is, as Mike Tomlin has said many times, going to get the first crack. He's going to be the starter, let's be honest. You know that Tomlin's going to go into vet with the steady hand of Russ heading into the season. But listen to Russ here, Joe. I know this is going to gas you up. He feels very good, maybe even, let's just say, rejuvenated heading into this season.
I feel the fountain of youth, man. I feel revived in every way, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I feel confident. I think at some point you got to know who you are. As a player, as a man, as a competitor. As somebody who's been fortunate to play in this game. And I don't doubt it. I just trust it. I felt really good last year playing. I felt really confident in the midst of everything. And so I think right now I have all that confidence times 10. So you just use it all. You just use it all. You just trust it, and you take one day at a time, and you just put in the work. And I just think that's the part that I love. There's nothing like doing the work. There's no substitute. There's no substitute for the hard work, and that's the part that I love.
Blue collar, Joe. There's no substitute for hard work. He just said it right there. No substitute.
Okay, couple of things. And this is, I love the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, again, I'll go back to the days when Nana Lisi, growing up with the Franco Harris, jersey in the house. She was born and raised in Jim Thorpe, PA. So we love the Pittsburgh Steelers. I wish I had Mike Tomlin as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. That aside, the best quarterback on that roster happens to be Justin Fields. And if the Steelers are going to contend for an AFC North title or an AFC championship, they need to start Justin Fields sooner rather than later. And I'll say this about Russell Wilson, okay? If I was buying a car and Russell Wilson was the salesman, I would never buy a car for him because he's a complete fraud. He's he's absolutely out there, okay? He's selling snake oil. If you can't tell that what he just said was an absolute joke. He never worked with the Denver Broncos. Outside that one prop photo spoof that he made in terms of West Palm, Florida, where he was putting the helmet on and trying to throw with the wide receivers. He never tried to help the younger players on that team. I said it once. The Seattle teammates hated his guts. The Denver Broncos players hated his guts, and the Pittsburgh Steelers teammates will hate his guts before the season's over as well. Buy into Justin Fields sooner rather than later. He's a complete joke. And I used to think he was a gamer back in his early days in Seattle. He might have been that player 10 years ago. He's not that player now.
I don't know, Joe. He says he's found the fountain of youth. Could be a whole new.
Don't get me started.
For
you
him.
know that. Come on, Broncos Nation. Come on. He's selling snake oil. He's selling snake oil and encyclopedias.
Let's ride. Here's one for me, Joe, that I had to take a little step back when I heard it. So Josh Allen spoke yesterday, Buffalo Bill mandatory mini camps. And what has he been working on in the offseason, Joe? Now, Josh, I've never felt has had any mechanic problems. When he came out in the draft, Joe, I think there was people that thought he needed to become more accurate, which he did, to be fair. You look at those completion percentage numbers for him and whatnot, they have gotten to a very high level in the league. But what has Josh been working on, Joe? He's been working on his mechanics heading into this year.
Yeah, big time on just mechanically getting it as efficient as possible. Meeting with Chris Hess, who's been here, he owns Biometric, just digitally mapping our throwing motions right now and just seeing what we can tighten up on and improve on. And just having that in the back of our mind. So when we're doing our individual work, when we're inside the building, making sure that we're doing everything we need to do and I need to do to be as clean as possible. If you can deliver the ball as consistently as possible, it takes less to think about, and you could focus more on what the defense is presenting. Just trying to be as efficient as possible in my throwing motion right now.
This is the problem.
I don't need this, Joe. Let me just tell you something. What makes this guy great is that he can do things that other guys can't on the fly. I don't need him sitting down and starting to become some chart and graph quarterback. I don't need that, Joe. Fine, you want to be more efficient, mechanics, blah, blah, blah. I want to see him, Joe, get back to deep balls. I want to see that get back. I want to see him making plays on the fly. That's what makes him the quarterback that he is, not worrying about mechanics. And I'm sure all quarterbacks go through this, Joe. They want to do things quicker, better, faster, whatnot. It better not change the way that he's been, Joe, because that's why he's one of the best in the league.
I agree. With Josh Allen, you take the good, you take the bad, and the ugly, and that's the overall package, right?
Yes.
You got to take everything. I will say
not
this,
as much ugly anymore.
No, I agree, but the interceptions at times, but let me just say this. That's what makes his game so unique. And the problem, yet again, is we're having a quarterback start to worry about mechanics. Is my arm at a 90-degree angle? Do I have my right foot in front by 2 yards as opposed to 3 yards? These are all things that make players think. And, you go back to a reactionary sport. I'm a believer in if you can get the ball from point A to point B, I don't care how you do it, just do it, right? That's the biggest thing. I don't know if you remember this, but Nick Saban had a punter, and it was in the book that came out that he had a punter and they changed his mechanics because he was, it was trying to be more efficient. And he threw that out the window. Just do it and do it right as long as you feel comfortable. And these coaches try to change too much. And then, what happens? The quarterback goes into this big abyss and he never gets out. So I hope for your sake, he doesn't start listening to the charts and graphs guys, because then you're in trouble.
I'm with you. I hope that he doesn't start listening to the charts and graphs guys either. But I still think, Joe, he's got a lot of interesting pieces around him this year. And the offense is going to be able to move the football, and they're going to be able to put points up. I saw Keon Coleman signed his rookie deal this morning as well, which is good news up in the B-Low. Sleeper pick of the draft, Keon Coleman. Sleeper pick of the draft. Coast to coast, we're back on the grid after this.
Look at the stats. 5 out of the top 6 televised rated games on the WNBA this year all involve Caitlin Clark. The only one that doesn't was a second half of a doubleheader in which Caitlin Clark played the first game.
Only on SportsGrid.
You're going a little deep bomb hunting here. We don't care that we have the one heavy favorite with Rory, a couple other guys like Fleetwood and Tagala, etc. You're going to go a little deeper down the board.
This course, I think, is going to play a little bit more to the wedges. They have, what they did is they've renovated it to basically block off some of the bombing alleys for these guys. They've narrowed the fairways.
Ferrall Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Garrett Cole's getting ready to come back too. I guess look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Garrett Cole, look, don't come back. I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with an injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
And we are back from coast to coast here on a Wednesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us here today. Of course, BetMGM, they have you ready for baseball season with their Swing for the Fences free-to-play game. Once a day, go to the free-to-play BetMGM Swing for the Fences for a chance to win daily prizes. Play as the batter and pick an area of the strike zone. Get a single, double, triple, home run, or a flyout. You can play once a day. I got a single today. It was outstanding. Free-to-play promotion is for BetMGM Sportsbook account holders. You can play once per day. Reward types include parlay boost tokens, odds boost tokens, SGP boost tokens, bonus spins in eligible casino states, and bonus bets. All rewards expire in 24 hours. Swing for the Fences. It's free to play on your BetMGM Sportsbook app. Go and get it done. They've got that on iOS and Android, of course, there. And every single day you can go and play that for BetMGM. All right, Joe, I've got a couple more football things for you. And then I got a couple hockey numbers. And then I have an update for you on, I know we ended the show yesterday with the hot dog stuff. I actually have an update for you, Joe, on that. So before we leave, I'll give you that as well. Here is new Chargers coach, another favorite of Joe's. I got all Joe's favorites today. Jim Harbaugh is going to be out there on the West Coast now, loving West Coast living, and loving, Joe, his new quarterback, Justin Herbert. He's glad that guy's on his team.
The athleticism and the strength, really, I mean, he could play tight end here. He could play edge rusher
Here
here.
we go. Edge rusher. Here we go.
And he can really, and the arm talent is even better than advertised.
I thought J.J. McCarthy was the best he
It's
ever
an
saw.
exciting thing. I mean, I found myself just sitting at my desk at times and going, he's on our team, you know?
That's your boy, Joe. That's your boy right there.
Come on. Like, really?
Get ready. You get a lot of that from Jim this year. Jim's going to be fun. He's going to have a lot of silly stuff that he brings out to the table. The Kansas City Chiefs, they will be ready to defend their Super Bowl. They're going for 3 in a row. God, somebody please stop that. Travis Kelce, there was always that talk the last few years, Joe, of maybe some retirement for Travis. He says, no, I'm ready to keep going, and I want that workload.
Wear and tear me, baby. I'm ready for it, man. Put the load on me. I love being accountable for the men and the women in this building and Chiefs Kingdom. I love the aspect of, everybody counting on me to try and make that play for the team and just do the right things out there on the field and better judgment for the team. And I don't think that anything from last year, put more miles on me. made me, less of a player. I think it was, all in all, it was just, focus, being my own worst critic, and capitalizing in situations that I should have.
Joe, your thoughts?
These are like, who could do it better? Like, so over the top. I mean, the men, when he first started saying the men and being accountable for the men and women in the building, I thought he was talking about being a firefighter. Granted, he's a great player. We understand Travis Kelce, Hall of Famer, I get it, but come on. Could we stop now? Really, could somebody beat them? Could somebody beat them this year? Hopefully it's Joey Silk. I don't want to see him in there again. I don't want to see his brother in the stands. I don't want to see Taylor Swift and the whole bid with the outfit and, enough. I'm sick of it.
You and me both, Joe. In fact, you, me, and probably everybody else who isn't a Kansas City Chief fan. We're hoping that somehow, some way, that reign ends here this year. They are the favorites again, though, to win the AFC, as you see up there on the big board. Nice, hefty 3-1 price. Ravens, Bills, Bengals, Texans, Dolphins, Jets, et cetera, down the board for the AFC.
Carver, I'll tell you what. You take the first 5 choices and you can't lose money, right? That's the way I feel. The Dolphins aren't winning the AFC championship. Like, come on. I'm a Dolphin fan. We know that. That's no shot. They got absolutely no shot. No shot. Chargers, no shot. Jets, no shot. I'll go through put the list up again. No shot. Raiders, no shot. We know it. Texans, maybe. Outside, chance, maybe. Joey Silk and Buffalo, I would say, are the 2 best to potentially dethrone them, but who knows what you're going to get out of Josh Allen now with the charts and graphs.
All right, let's play the games first. We'll play the games first before we see how deep into the weeds he's gone with that. Here's Dak Prescott saying for the 900th time this offseason that he's willing to gamble on himself. But this time, Joe, he wanted to make sure he let people know that's not exactly what he means.
But there's also some uncertainty with contracts for guys. Last year for you, last year for some guys, every coach, all that stuff. Does it raise any urgency as you're going into this season?
This is the urgency you should always have, to be honest. So maybe guys who normally wouldn't feel it. So I don't mind it. Been in this position before. I'm a gambling man. We'll gamble on myself and my guys. So not actually, guys. I understand. I understand doing a lot of shit with that. So.
You got
not that way.
Joe.
Just so yeah. That being said, yeah. There you go.
Shouldn't you
Joe,
always
I like
gamble
that.
on yourself? I know. Hell, we don't need a Justin Porter type of situation, right? We don't need a Jameson Williams or a Calvin Ridley type of situation.
No. Don't track my phone. No.
No prop bets for me.
NFC. There's the NFC for you as well, Joe. Look at all the football I gave you today. The Niners are there. There's the Cowboys. Under the Packers now, huh? Packers are higher on the board than the Cowboys.
Well, here's what I'll say. You bet the Niners, the Lions, the Eagles, the Packers. Right?
Here we go.
And then take a shot
Joe's
on the Rams
got it all
at
figured
14
out.
to 1.
Joe's got it all figured
out. The
out.
Rams are the outlier. The Rams, I think, are going to have some juice. As long as Stafford's there, Puka Nacua, you got Blake Corum, Kyron Williams. Come on, they're loaded. As long as they're healthy, you got Jared Verse, excellent choice. Fisk, excellent choice to make up for Aaron Donald. I think they're going to be there. Don't be shocked. You heard it here first. Don't be shocked if the Rams challenge the Niners for the West title.
Wow, Joe, very high on the Rams. We will come back, Joe. We'll wrap this up. I've got update for you on the hockey. They'll play Game 3 tomorrow night. I've got a few other things before we get out of here. Ferrall Coast to Coast, here with you on a Wednesday. Carver, High, and Joe for Scotty. We're back after this.
Look at the stats. 5 out of the top 6 televised rated games on the WNBA this year all involve Caitlin Clark. The only one that doesn't was a second half of a doubleheader in which Caitlin Clark played the first game.
Only on SportsGrid.
You're going a little deep bomb hunting here. We don't care that we have the one heavy favorite with Rory, a couple other guys like Fleetwood and Tagala, etc. You're going to go a little deeper down the board.
This course, I think, is going to play a little bit more to the wedges. They have, what they did is they've renovated it to basically block off some of the bombing alleys for these guys. They've narrowed the fairways.
Ferrall Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Garrett Cole's getting ready to come back too. I guess this. Look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Garrett Cole, "Look, don't come back." I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with an injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Are back from Coast to Coast here on a Wednesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty. Of course, Joe, let me give you a couple things before we get out of here. And game time decision is going to be next for you. Scotty's back tomorrow from Vegas, getting ready for the Benavidez and Tank Davis doubleheader fight coming up on Saturday. He'll be at the MGM Grand the next couple of days right here on Coast to Coast, 3 to 6 East on SportsGrid. Joe, the hockey is off tonight. Of course, they've been off the last couple days. They'll play Game 3 tomorrow night in Edmonton. The long flight for Florida, the day got a little longer for them, Joe. They were delayed for hours, huge storms in the south and in the Midwest. That's about almost a 6-hour flight on its own, getting from South FLA all the way up to Edmonton, Alberta. So a very long travel day. I'm sure, Joe, everyone's going to make a big deal out of that tomorrow when they start capping this game, that Florida's going to be tired, etc. I don't think, Joe, it's going to matter one bit, but the Oilers are favored minus $135 and another 5.5 total. I will tell you now, Joe, I do like this under once again. I'm going right back to it.
And I'm going with the Panthers, Bobrovsky and Vinny Viola plus 115. I don't care about the tarmac. I don't care that they're waiting, and I know that Edmonton has their backs against the wall, but I don't think they're the better team in this series. I think Florida's more blue-collar. I think they rough them up, and I think they win another low-scoring game. So I'm with you, Carver.
Yeah, I think it's a low-scoring game. I do, not going to lie, Joe, I know we have the sweep bet for Florida. I think Edmonton's going to win tomorrow night.
Yeah,
I'm not
you're
lie
terrible.
To you.
You're gutless.
I know I am.
You really are gutless.
It's the
You're
way that
terrible.
it goes, Joe. It is what it is. That's for sure. Now, yesterday, if you remember at the end of the show, I gave you the Joey Chestnut story that he was being not going to be in the 4th of July Nathan's hot dog eating competition. Well, leave it to Netflix, Joe. They swoop in pretty quick with some of this stuff. They are going to have on Labor Day, Monday, September the 2nd, they have gotten Joey Chestnut against Kobayashi, who we haven't seen in a long time. Mano a mano, Joe, in a hot dog eating competition, the ultimate hot dog eating competition. So, Joe, when one door closes, usually one with a bigger bag opens. And that sounds like that's what happened for Joey and Kobayashi here.
So do I get credit for bringing up Kobayashi yesterday? Because
You
I
might.
might have been the guy that got this started.
They might have heard you. You gave him the idea.
I said it, not you, me.
You said
I tell
it.
you
Oh,
what,
it was you.
Couple of things. Oh, here's a couple of things. You know, Netflix has a huge operation now in Eatontown, New Jersey. They have multitudes of studio films. who knows? Maybe I could be featured in a documentary one day. You never know. I mean, I got the looks. It's possible. The other thing is this. This has, look at me, no shot of being watched. Labor Day weekend, Monday.
Well, Joe, people watch. People watch on the 4th of July. Labor Day is always on a Monday.
Yeah.
But people watch on the 4th of July, that dopey thing. So
July 4th is a lot different in the middle of baseball season that we're talking about opening week of college football, LSU
Joe,
and USC.
let me just tell you something. Joe, I know you love college football.
Brian Kelly
I know
and Lincoln
you love
Riley
college
over
football. Stop for a minute.
Kobayashi
Stop for a
and
minute.
Chestnut.
Hold on for a minute, Joe. Your argument doesn't hold water, and I'll tell you why. Yes, I'm sure there's some awful college football game on Labor Day night from the ACC. I'm sure that we have that going on.
LSU.
No, that's Sunday night, Joe. That is Sunday night. That is not Monday night, Labor Day night. But I can tell you that at noon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Labor Day, people are not all huddled around getting ready for Clemson Duke or whoever it's going to be that night. They're not doing it.
Georgia. Get it right.
Now,
Clemson,
if it was
Georgia.
on, they're not playing Monday night, Joe. It is a dopey ACC game, not a big game. It is not a big time game on Monday night. And Joe, they're at night. The hot dogs are in the afternoon, just like on the 4th of July. They're going to get people to watch, Joe. You know that they are. I don't get it, but they'll get people to watch. Last time, Joe, me and you, Dallas tonight. Kyrie, Luka, money line. Let's go. Him. I'll see you tonight. Carver and Lisi, SportsGrid Radio, 8 p.m. East on the grid. We will go through that game, of course, and we'll continue to get ready. U.S. Open tomorrow. We've got a lot of baseball tonight. Game time decisions is next. Great job by Mafia Luke and the crew. Scotty back tomorrow from Vegas here on C2C. Everybody have a great night. Cash a ton of tickets. Ferrall Coast to Coast on a Wednesday. Carver High and Joe for Scotty. Have a great night. See you tomorrow on the grid.
Versus the book.
That was Aaron Rodgers' thing. It's your quarterback in the first round. Yeah. It's a luxury pick. We don't have the luxury. We're trying to win right now. I'm in a window right now, and you're going to say, no, we're going to plan this for the future. With a guy who had 4 years, 4 seasons ended by injury. 4. Like, Michael Penix is a walking injury. Like, what are you doing taking him in the top 10?
The Bostonian versus the book.
And now you have to qualify in these majors. You got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness. And I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. Mm-hmm. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Ferrall Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage Late
This sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on sport.